சொல்லிட்டு.
ஓகே.
எனக்கு என்னன்னா நீங்க வெளில போயிட்டு உள்ள இருந்தீங்கன்னா எனக்கும் ப்ரெஷர் இல்லைன்றதால தான் சொல்றேன். நீங்க யோசிக்கணும், பேசிக்கோங்க அவரோட.
ஓகே, I'll talk.
ஆனா நீங்க வெளில போயிட்டு உள்ள இருந்தீங்கன்னா 2 weeks ஆயிடும். ஐ அக்ரி வித் தட். இது இன்டர்னல் மெட்லைஃப் வேற யூனிட்ல இருக்கு, இது வேற யூனிட். இது மிட் அட்லாண்டிக், அது வந்து சவுத் வெஸ்ட். ஸோ நீ எங்க ப்ரொஃபைல் கொடுத்தா எனக்கு ப்ளேம் பண்ணக்கூடாது. அதான் எனக்கு அதான் பயமா இருக்கு. இன்டர்னல் பாலிடிக்ஸ் மாட்டாங்கன்றதான் யோசிச்சேன், வேற ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. ஸோ டூ த பெஸ்ட் தட் யூ கேன் பண்ணி நீங்க வெளில போயிட்டு வந்தா ஈஸியஸ்ட் அப்படி பண்ண அப்படியா. பட் இட் இஸ் எனிவே சர்க்கம்மெண்டட் லாஸ்ட் மந்த்ஸ் ஐ ஆஸ்க் கப்ல.
ஓகே, யா.
சரி, அவங்க வெண்டரை டீட்டெயில்ஸ் கேட்டிருக்கேன். அந்த விசாரிக்கலாம், விசாரிச்சு நான் அவங்களுக்கு தரேன். பசுபத்தின்ற கேட்டிருக்கான், அவங்க கிளைண்ட் பார்ட்னரா இருக்கான், அவங்க ரஜிக்கு அவங்க ரிப்போர்ட் பண்றாங்க. நான் அவங்களை கேட்கறேன், கேட்டா I'll give the vendor details. வேற என்ன நடக்குது? அந்த இது டிஐஏ சொல்லலையா? நீங்க டிஐஏ சொல்லலையா? வேற ஏதோ சொன்னீங்களே.
The vendor has to reach back, right? So I don't know. No, they haven't.
சரி, அப்ப நீங்க மெட்லைஃப்ல இருங்க. If 6 months they can do the same thing. எம்ப்ளாயி இது வந்து மேனேஜர் தான், அந்த டீம் கிடையாதுன்னா நீங்க போறது. அது புது அக்கௌண்ட்.
ஓகே.
அது அக்கௌண்ட் நானும் ஒர்க் பண்ணிருக்கேங்க. பெரிய அக்கௌண்ட் ப்ரொபோசலுக்கு என்னெல்லாம் கூப்பிட்டு ஒர்க் பண்ண சொன்னாங்க. அந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் போர்ட்ஃபோலியோ நான் வாங்கி கொடுத்தேன் உங்களுக்கு. ஒரு பஞ்ச் ஆஃப் டீம் சொல்றேன். பட் என்ன சொல்ல வரேன்னா, இட்ஸ் a fixed price, MSP தான். ஸோ உங்களுக்கு இந்த டீ நம்பர்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கக்கூடாதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இது லாங் டர்ம் பொசிஷன் இருக்கு உங்களுக்கு. 6 months சொன்னீங்கன்னா you can ask for that.
Okay. You
ask for employment, வாங்கிக்கலாம்.
Sure, thank you.
கண்டிப்பா 120 பண்ணுவாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். பண்ணுவாங்களான்னு தெரியல. 120 can ask please.
Okay, thank you Prashant.
சரி, ஓகே மணி. So 1 week லீவ் போட்டுருக்கீங்க கரெக்டா?
Yeah.
இங்க இந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட் முடிச்சா நான் அங்கேயே அந்த அப்பந்தான் வரலாம்னு யோசிச்சுட்டு இருக்கேன்.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to Stop Now. I'm JK, your host for the Experimental Lab, the Daily Show. And we started early little bit today. The reason is we are getting back-to-back meetings. I just wanted to share that before we jump on to the interview right away. So we got 2 interviews today. One with, I have no clue what is this. In the next few minutes, I have to prepare for this. And also through LTI, Citibank. I think this was initially confirmed and now it's a final interview. Hopefully this will be more fun. We will record this and play this out at a later time. So that is the current update to start with for today. Let me check with my team if anyone joined. Oh, Amar is here.
Yeah, hi JK.
Hi Amar.
Hi everyone. Yeah, how are you JK?
I'm good. Did you get my message? I just wanted to share what's happening with all the emails, and I wanted to show how tedious the process is getting for us in terms of replying and following up, because we have plenty of back-to-back calls and emails. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you before we jump on into this interview.
Yeah.
And the good news, as we always disclose the good news first, that we got offer for 2 interviews that I attended in the last couple of days for Bank of America, and got selected, and it is on the pipeline to get onboarded. So
great news.
Yes, Shiva is pretty lucky guy, and he keeps getting offer. So we just need to see how he is going to do this time. And before that, we might get some calls. I just don't want to take any of those calls. Probably I will ask you to do the lip sync, Amar, which you tried yesterday. Probably you can try it better this time today. The reason is there are a lot of calls coming in, and I wanted to make some fun in that. But right now we are stuck with this interview. So after the interview, we will go with that, right? So let me show, this is at 1 for technical PM for Citibank. That also is possible. And this is through Xaware.
Oh,
So we are going with this interview right now.
okay.
And then Charles Kai from Ansys actually will try to reach you regarding about the job description that you are comfortable or not, and I'm going to consider a file. And also I need your updated resume because I don't have your updated resume. So
You can see like we just started getting calls from the morning and
Mhm.
voicemails. And the interesting part was like the name attracted me. That's why like I stopped. Shah Rukh Khan, he's I don't know whether he's the superstar of the Bollywood or this is some other guy. I just want to joke about this and talk to him and ask him in the show. We will do this like after the interview. That's one thing I wanted to share. Let's get ready for the interview.
Sure.
Oh, this is quite interesting. They're asking consent for processing of personal information. All right. Okay, this is not. They might ask us to turn on the video as well. You're ready for that, Amar? Turn on your video and lip sync. Let's right on time. Can you see yourself? No. Can you hear yourself? Of course I can. I am not able to. Probably they are trying to call us. Let's see like if that works. All right. I'm in a meeting. We can talk later.
Yeah, sure.
They're asking us to take pictures. Oh.
Hey, hi Manikandan, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good, and I can hear you as well. Let me start the interview.
Sure.
Okay, so before we proceed further, can we discuss about your roles and responsibilities in your current job and your overall experience, and specifically as a Scrum Master?
Sure. Again, how do I address your name? I didn't quite catch. Saurabh, right?
Saurabh.
Okay. Hi. Nice to meet you, Saurabh, and thanks for taking the time today. And as you can see, like I've been a project manager for more than 15 years, and I traditionally come from the waterfall background. I have in experience in different domains, like including banking, insurance, and technology sector as well. And I've worked in multi-vendor environment as well. Currently with the Bank of America, and also working on the phone intelligence piece on the fraud tech side of it. So that is the overall brief, and the agile is the buzzword, right? In the industry, the last 6-7 years, all the enterprise clients are moving towards agile processes. So that's how like I got certified as a Scrum Master as well. And I played the Scrum Master role in a couple of technology clients, implementation and application development projects as well. So banking domain heavily relies on hybrid model, and though they don't have like, because the traditional regulations and compliance requires them like to roadmap and schedule those through waterfall methods. So we are using both of it right now. So in the current role, I'm not just playing the Scrum, but as a project manager. But to explain more on the Scrum role, I can do it from the other experience.
Yeah, okay. So how do you differentiate between these two, like, you know, like you said, waterfall and agile, or the Scrum and PM role? How do you differentiate between these two roles?
Yes, so any project management as such, like it comes from different phases, right? So we go with the planning phase, and then like a design and develop, and then like test it and deliver. So that will be the usual model in waterfall in a phased out manner, where we allocate the resources and the timelines and schedule it and track those things in the traditional way. But in agile, we try to do it iteratively, right? All the stakeholders like the business and the development team, technology team comes together, and in 2-week sprints or 3 weeks or even 1 month based on the release cycle, we go with the iterative development model. Every 2 weeks, we try to deliver something that will be of value for the business. That way, iteratively, the scope can be modified, and also the requirements can be gathered, because we don't have upfront or full-scale business requirement document or the complete picture of what needs to be delivered. Then we always go with the agile model. That is kind of fast-paced manner, and also more than process-oriented, it is people-oriented, where people are self-organized. Overall, agile is a change in mindset. That is what like gives the opportunity for everybody to give their best for bringing in the best business value, and also provide the ultimate success for the project. So those are the differences.
How your role differentiates when you're working in waterfall or when you're working in Scrum projects?
Yes, in waterfall, traditionally, we view that as a project manager role, where your responsibility is to deliver the project on time with the budget, and also tracking those things, and creating the project plan, charter, documentation, and also what not like in terms of documentation heavily with the banking, like we have to go with the compliance and regulations. We follow through those things and get those approvals, and then process it and document with business requirement document, change logs, change management. All those things have to be followed through in the project manager role. But whereas in the Scrum Master role in the Agile, it's more of a facilitation. It's like servant leadership, where you connect and coordinate between the product owners and the Scrum team, and make sure you have the product backlog. And the Scrum Master is mainly the role itself is like to make sure you implement the Agile in scope, and also have those ceremonies conducted so that you can get the results by default by self-organizing the teams.
Okay, so if we talk about Scrum a bit in detail, so can you tell me like what's your sprint size, and what happens on day one till the last day of the sprint? What all ceremonies do you conduct? How the sprint flows?
Yes, it's pretty standard and simple, straightforward, right? So when it comes to Scrum ceremonies, we go with the sprint planning, right? That's the start of the sprint. And also I am explaining it in terms of 2-week sprints. And also the daily stand-up, we call it as like daily scrum. If it is a co-located team, like we do it in a room, standing up and doing that daily stand-up like for 15 minutes. It's like scrum teams have to be smaller, and the scope is like to have 7 to not more than 12 people. And if it is like more people are involved in it, like we break it into 2 scrum teams, and then we try to manage that. So in that, like the scrum team will have like analysts and the developers and architects and testers. Whereas like the product owner is responsible for the product backlog. We come up with a sprint backlog and also sprint goal. That is the commitment from the sprint team, like what needs to be delivered in the next 2 week sprint. And apart from the sprint planning and daily stand-up, we go with the backlog grooming or refinement with the product owner and the team, like to estimate and prioritize the product backlog and keep it ready for the following coming sprints. And that happens like once in a week or twice in a week based on the maturity of the scrum teams. And also like at the end of the sprint, like we give a sprint demo. It is with all the stakeholders like SMEs and whoever is involved in the project. And that follows with the sprint retrospective with the sprint team to get a feedback on what went well and what needs to be improved and action items and how are we performing. Those things are crucial for updating the team's performance and taking out the metrics and tracking all those that needs to be done in the sprint cycle. So these are the crucial.
And so when we talk about sprint planning, so can you explain in detail like what all things you discuss in sprint planning and what is the outcome of this meeting?
Sprint planning is basically when we have a strong product backlog and a sprint backlog, we pick up those user stories. And if we have the epics broken down into feature and user stories and tasks, each development team like pick up their based on the capacity and the workload. We have that already estimated and then pick those stories and basically giving a commitment saying that like the story is ready to, the definition of ready is being defined there, and also the definition of done with acceptance criteria and all those things. We check those things and then pick up those stories and plan for it, saying that like this is what we are going to commit and kickstart that like at the end of the sprint planning. The sprint cycle starts from there.
And how do you decide how many user stories you are going to take in a particular sprint?
It varies from team to team. There is no hard and fast rule to follow in that, but it is based on the capacity of the number of resources. Let's say, like for example, we have 7 people in the Scrum team, and also we max it out with 80% of it, like in 2 weeks sprint with 160 points, or based on different metrics. If we are going with the estimation of including the complexity and risk and Fibonacci series and story pointed, then accordingly we choose those things for each one of them and calculate the average for that and come up with the overall estimation for the sprint goal.
Okay, can you take an example? For example, like you said that you have 7 team members in the team, and you have the estimation already done. So like you said, and then story points already assigned. So let's say you are using Fibonacci series, right?
Yes.
Like you mentioned. So let's say you have user stories assigned with 1, 2, 3, 5, or 8, all those story points with you. So then, how will you go ahead with the planning, like which user story should be assigned to which team member, and how many user stories can be assigned to a particular team member based on capacity? For like you said that you have 2 weeks of sprint and 80% of time is what you're taking as actual effective productive time, and that 20% as buffer. So in this case, how will you assign a story point to a particular member? Like you will assign 2 user stories of 8 story points, or you will assign 3 user stories of 5 or 3 story points? How do you work it out?
Yes, again, that involves with the team's collective decision on that, right? With we standardize that and we go by initial sprint and gradually increase that. We just don't overload and then like fall short of it with the expectations. So we try to minimize it, like as you said, if the story point is like 1, and if it is like 2 or 3, then we combine those things, like they can pick up like 4 or 5, and we do assign like around for each individual like not more than 10 story points. In that way, like we try to self-organize, and if they are able to complete it within the middle of the sprint and they have the bandwidth, they can take up like additional workload from the backlog. So that way, like we plan for that. Like it's not a fixed goal that like, because of the stories like that involves complexity, and if there is a learning curve and they need like to test it and validate and fix it, or they need additional research on that, then we accommodate those requests. So that is why like it is more of a collective decision. We talk about it like during the planning session with the product owner, and then assign accordingly and pick up those story points.
And okay, so for the assignment also, you were saying it is a collective decision. There is no one particular member who decides who is going to work on which user story.
Usually the development team like has the assigned user story for particular developers, but it is like more of during the estimation session, we come up with, if there is a junior or senior level developer or architect, we use the planning poker and story pointed and ask like why it is like there is a difference. If one person estimates it like 2 and the other person says like it's 8, then there is a huge difference, and we just make an argument saying that like which will be the right way to go about it, and if there is any clarification needed from them like to fix those things, like then accordingly we make those decisions.
Okay. All right. And you also mentioned about definition of done and definition of ready. So can you explain what are these two things, and what all checklist item do you have in these two items, definition of done and definition of ready?
Yes, in terms of definition of ready, like we try to make that user story and the task that needs to be defined by the business team, and also the technical team's requirement. If there is a technical piece involved in that, we try to make sure that like it is ready for the development team to pick it up and work on it. So that is how like we try to fill all the details, the fields that is necessary in that. And the definition of done is like when the business can sign off with the acceptance criteria. So those things will be defined in those user stories.
Can you give me an example of definition of done checklist and definition of ready checklist? What all things you cover in these two?
Again, it depends on the definition of ready is like more of the readiness for the story to be worked upon, right? So it has the defined checklist for based on the user story, right? It is not specific to all the user stories. Whenever like we get like the application or the business related to it, let's say like for a user login page, right? So the fields that needs to be like the username, the password, the length of it, and the checkbox to it, and the submit button, all these things have to be there in the story. That will be the definition of ready. And then like in case of definition of done, like whether those things have been like validated and tested.
So what is the difference between acceptance criteria and definition of ready then? Because what you mentioned, I think it should be part of acceptance criteria, right?
Yes, it is part of an acceptance criteria.
So basically your definition of ready and acceptance criteria are overlapping in short, right?
Yeah, so acceptance criteria is providing the readiness for what is the completion of the user story, right? So this is how like we complete the user story. And if there is any clarification needed from the development team to the analyst or the product owner from the business side of it, that needs to be completed even before starting the story, because once you start working on the story and then like in the middle of the sprint, like coming back and saying the story, it is not clear for me to work on, so I need clarification, and they don't have to wait for that, and that leads to delay, right? So that is why like we come up with the definition of ready, so that once you are committing that like it's ready, and then like you move forward without any hurdle.
Mhm. Okay, all right. Maybe you can have an in-depth knowledge on these two items, DOD and DOR, maybe after the interview. It is somewhere you are correct, but I think most of it is not right as per me. So maybe you can have some more in-depth knowledge on these. So anyways, going forward, do you know what is velocity of a team?
Yes, so in terms of again, thanks for that update. I will go through the textbook definition of those things. And in terms of velocity and so the capacity of the team is like what is the workload they have, like for how many hours they have for the particular 2-week sprint, and we come up with the velocity calculation based on the overall team size and number of days and hours.
Okay. I think this is not actually a velocity what I was looking for. And can you explain me like how do you calculate the velocity? You can take maybe one random scenario of 70 members and they have around 8 hours per day. 2 weeks means around 10 working days, so which is 80 hours per person, so which is 80 into 7. So how will you calculate velocity in this scenario?
Yes, so 80 hours into like the number of user story, like the story points that we are going to go with the buffer period, right? As I said, like we always don't go with the 80 hours, the full 2-week sprint. So normally it will be like 65 to 70 hours based on the complexity and the team that is committing to deliver this much like on the 2-week sprint. So for each individual, we pick that up and then derive at the velocity based on the user stories pointings. Like so, each one will have different. It's not a uniform one, right? So we cannot assign everybody like you have to complete 10 story points in 70 hours in the 2-week sprint. So it's not standard like the velocity will be like for, but we try to come up with the overall how do I say like overall number for the sprint goal, right? So it is like 160 or 240, whatever like that. We try to set it as a benchmark and then like go from there.
Sorry, what was that number? 160 or 170? What is it exactly?
Velocity for the team.
No, this is hours or is it story points? What was that?
Number of hours, right? So
number of hours. Okay. Okay. But okay, I'll tell you what velocity actually is. Velocity is the average number of story points that you have delivered from the past sprints. So it has nothing to do with the current sprint or future sprint. It is derived from the past experience, from your past work that you have done. So let's say that you have delivered 60 story points in the last sprint and 70 story points before that sprint. So your velocity is overall 65, which is the average of 60 and 70 story points that you have delivered in the past 2 sprints. And that's how you calculate velocity. So your velocity doesn't have anything which relates to number of hours or which relates to number of team members or capacity. It is all about story points. From where we calculate the velocity.
Yeah, that's right. So the velocity, once you calculated it, like you are averaging it like over the curve, right? The progress of the next few sprints and then like derive those things. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. And so when we talk about the current sprint, so let's say that your current sprint has started and you are on day 3 or day 2 or day 3, and how do you track the team's progress, that they are going in the right direction or they are they are going below the timelines or they are going above the timelines? How do you track the team's performance during the sprint?
Well, that is usually why we have the daily stand up, and we try to address the roadblocks and impediments within the 24-hour cycle. And if they don't bring up like on the daily stand up saying that like what they did the day before and what they're going to do today, it is quite evident that like they are on track. If there is any roadblock when we find those challenges, we get to know that. And if the stories are not moving to in progress or to the testing team or to the done, then by the fourth or fifth day of the sprint itself, we get to know like how the curve is going to be and how the end result. And we try to rectify those things and work it out
But,
on.
okay. Okay, got it. But that's again everything is verbal, right? So let's say your senior stakeholders ask you like what is the update on the project. So you can't tell them that your team members are saying that they will be able to complete this by end of day 10 or so. There is what I was asking about was burn down chart. Some metric that you can show to your senior stakeholders and show that this is the overall progress of the project as of today. So do you track burn down chart or burn up chart for the team during the sprint?
Not during the sprint. Most of the client I work, like I'll be honest with that, like they don't insist on. But I, as a project manager, like at the end of the every week, like also we provide a rack status, a PowerPoint slide deck for the top executives on the project statuses on different projects altogether. So in that we include the burn down chart, and those metrics will be there like as part of the slide. And it's like 2 week sprint status alone, right? If it is like a red, green, or amber. So that is what like mostly they are worried about. And also to perform to state the performance of the Scrum teams, and in comparison with multiple Scrum teams, we just include those burn down charts. Other than that, like I never come across.
Okay. But do you know, like from knowledge perspective, what is burn down chart, what is on x-axis, what is on y-axis? How do you track the burn down chart?
Yes, in theoretical terms, but it can be adjusted and manipulated. And you are right. So we get to know that like the progress in the middle of the sprint itself, right? Because the longer they stay on the same stories, like and then at the end of the sprint, if they completed, like the curve will fall and it will not be what is expected. So that can be, and honestly, none of the product owners I work with, like they are very concerned about those metrics in which like it has to be theoretically correct. And we try to match to what the expectations is, like rather than going by the definition of those things and trying to get the perfect burn down chart.
Yeah, I know perfect is impossible to achieve, but at least you should know as a Scrum Master how to create burn down chart, how to track it, just in case if it is required. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And you have also done your certification, right? So have you gone through this the Scrum Guide, which is a 4 or 5 page PDF document?
Yes, regularly. I've been certified for almost 5 years. So in practical sense, like we go with the basic Scrum values and implementing the Scrum ceremonies. And obviously it's a 2-day course. When we complete that.
Can you tell me what are the 5 Scrum values which are defined in the Scrum Guide?
Let me think about it. Like focus, respect, and timeliness, and also commitment. One thing.
Yeah, focus, courage, respect,
yes.
Openness, and commitment. These are the 5 ones. But yeah, okay. It is theoretical, so I'll give you a bonus of doubt that it can be skipped sometimes because it's been 5 years since you have done the certification. But as a Scrum Master, this should be on your tips. Then should not be forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's take some scenario-based questions. So let's say you have 2 weeks of sprint in your project, and you are on day 2, where the team members are working on their respective tasks which are assigned to them. And suddenly, on day 2, product owner comes to you saying that there is a critical requirement coming from the business side which needs to be incorporated in the current sprint itself. So as a Scrum Master, how will you handle this situation? Because product owner is pushing you, and the team already has their own tasks which are assigned to them, and they have started working on it. So how will you handle this situation?
So scenario based, like again, it is based on how you interact with the team, what is the team dynamics and the culture. Based on that, like I usually go by consulting with them and getting that done, right? I missed the last part, like your voice was breaking. What was the last part?
Yeah, I was saying that if product owner is pushing you for a new requirement to incorporate in the current sprint itself, but team members have their own tasks assigned to them and they can't take on more work at this point of time on day 2 of the sprint. So what will you do in such a situation?
Yeah, so that is one thing, right? So during the sprint planning itself, we define the sprint goal and we make that commitment, and also we have provided that buffer, and that is what like it's given back. It's not the team has to be flexible as well. Like it's not usual, but then the product owners understands that like on day 2 they don't come up with a new, unless it is an emergency, it's a break fix or something needs to be done within the sprint, then the team can make that decision. That's how like we consult with them and say like if anyone has the bandwidth to pick that up and complete it, and if anything that is of non-priority and it can be pushed back, like just like how we are prioritizing it like high, low and medium. So if we get to see that like low priority items are there, like then we keep that in the bucket and try to accommodate the product owner request. And we don't encourage that like to be ongoing one or frequent ones, right? So it's on case by cases. That's how like I will handle that. Like.
Okay, got it. Okay, and let's say that you have like you said that you have 7 to 12 team members generally in the Scrum team, and let's say you have 7 team members in the team, and one of the team members is not responding to you on time, and he or she is generally not available online because you are doing work from home. They are not available for any communication when you require them to be available, and they are not delivering their deliverables on time. So how will you handle such a person who is not being professional and not being really responsible in their deliverables?
Yeah, that's a good question, but those are hypothetical scenarios I haven't come across. Mostly, I try to motivate and keep the teams on top of everything that I am trying to achieve. So I haven't come across such kind of personalities who is giving hard time. But let's say, right, for an example, if we come across, I do usually regularly meet up with development teams and have a one-on-one communication and talk to them and find out their needs and any difficulties or challenges they face. And particularly with the testing teams and all, like they don't, as per the Scrum values, right? So they don't have that courage or to talk to the overall team during the presentation or ask questions, or they hesitate. It's not the courage, but they hesitate, like, and they don't want like to create panic or some trouble in the team. So they keep it reserved. But during the retrospective, we try to be open and transparent and ask them like to open up and come up with criticism and what went wrong and how we can improve. So when we do those things, naturally, like the human tendency is like to open up to people, and it's more of a friendly environment I create. So that way, like I try to avoid like those kind of personalities who are trying to avoid and give at difficult times. But then within a stipulated time, like if it is a vendor resource or different resources are being handled, right? And I don't micromanage or people manage the teams. So by being a role model and being the Scrum servant leader, you get to motivate the team and get the work done. But if it goes out of the hand, then you have the specific protocol like to escalate it to the respective managers and make them fall in line, or even encourage those resources to put on spotlight and take them the daily stand-up and run the stand-up in my absence. Those kind of things I try to do it and make people align with the team's objectives.
Okay. Okay, all right. I think I've covered everything I had from my side. Is there anything from your side before we can close the call?
No, this was a very good one, right? Extensive most of the time, like I don't get to have this much of discussion. And if you can give me
Alright.
the brief about client or what is the next steps, what kind of team
Yeah,
and-
on that part, I can't explain it to you because Monjin is a third-party platform where I'm only assessing your skills for this particular role. So I'm not a part of this employee for which you are giving this interview. So maybe you can connect with the concerned HR and they will connect you with the right person who can give you more information on the projects.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Like,
So I just provide my feedback and then we'll take it from there for the second round.
okay, all right. Sounds good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Okay. Thanks. So have a nice day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. This is fun and I got over on time and it extended, but mostly how was it? It was a hard one, right?
Yes, yes. Really, it was hard to face the interview. I am very tired after facing the interview.
Were you lip syncing?
Yes, I was lip sync that time.
Okay.
Did you see?
I didn't see like because I was facing the camera, man. So it
Oh.
was like it's a screening interview, right? I was going to blast that dude, right? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to joke with me? Why did you like? He was asking so many questions, tough questions, right? So that is again, this is fun, right? So
Yeah.
to expose to our audience as well, right? It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Even doing this fraud, people put so much effort and they have to really do well because it's like if it's original, it can come by naturally, right? For most people. If it's not, then you have to fake it till you make it, right? So that's much more harder. And that is how like we kind of ended up on this note for today.
Yeah, sure.
We will definitely do better. And also we have plenty of work to do and follow up on. And in terms of Nate as well, like others profile that we are handling, so much of information is being flooded. And we will give a glimpse of it in the next week probably. And now we are almost in the middle of the week and I will play those successful interviews and the projects that we are getting onboarded in the coming days too.
Okay.
So subscribe to our channel, watch us regularly, give us your feedback and comment. And also if you are interested, please join us. So that's all for today. Signing off. Bye for now.
Bye.